Hi everyone, welcome. We're checking in today on this bin of red wiggler worms on day 178 in service. When we last checked in here 13 days ago, we were giving them feeding number, what was it, 15? 15 feedings so far. So today, for feeding number 16, I went to my freezer and I first pulled out this chunk of stuff out of one of my freezer bags. Seemed like not so much, but now I'm starting to wonder. Now it's starting to seem like it was probably plenty, but for whatever reason I felt like, hey, let's throw in a few figs. But I'm starting to have second thoughts. I don't know, perhaps we'll make the decision once we're into the feeding to see if this looks like enough, or do we want to also just throw in the remainder of everything that I bought down. Well, we'll see. I guess in the kitchen it felt light. I don't know why. But now that I'm down here, it seems like we might have got a little bit overboard. But you know, I've been talking... Not talking. Who am I talking to? Nobody. I'm talking to myself, basically. Been thinking to myself that it'll be nice to try to prolong the time between check-ins. In a way, I'm jealous when I see other channels talking about how it's been a month or a really long period of time since they last checked in on. And don't get me wrong, I've got systems where that's exactly the game plan. Like my set it and forget it systems have not been checked in on for a couple months now, I would say. I don't even know how long anymore. But I think if we were to just provide slightly larger feedings, we could extend the interval between feedings. I don't know, it's just sort of something that was going on in the back of my mind in terms of how to possibly, I don't know. I think the real driver was the, oh boy, the number of videos that I've got. I got like this backlog of videos. I got stuff prepared weeks in advance at this point, scheduled to be released between now and more than 2 weeks from now. I've got daily videos all set to go. Kind of nice from the perspective that I could really just sit back and do nothing for a couple weeks if I wanted to, and it would show no impact on the programming on my channel. But I guess the downside of it, I think, is that I feel a little disconnected when people comment on something that I did weeks ago. In some cases, in many cases, I've already been back to that bin even another time more recent than what's depicted in the video, so I'm a little getting my wires crossed a little bit, if you know what I mean, in terms of where my brain thinks certain systems are and relative to how far along the viewers are caught up to my activities here. I think just in the process of excavating the feeding zone, which was actually kind of fun there, while I was chatting, I was kind of marveling at all the worms enjoying the feeding zone down here. Some handfuls seemed to be more heavily populated than others. Like here's a nice little mound of worms just hanging out in the bedding, working on the delicious foods we left for them last time. I could still smell a little scent of citrus, maybe lemon, in here, but as far as leftovers go, besides the scent of citrus and maybe a banana stem or something I saw here and there, I think they've done a really good job on what they were given 13 days ago. So I do feel confident in giving them quite possibly everything that we bought down for them today. Well, let's see how that goes. The idea for delivering the food today was to use up some of these coffee filters that have been piling up. Lately I've just been emptying the coffee into this container just to make it really easy to transport down here into the wormery from the kitchen. And a lot of times I just let those coffee filters begin to stack up, and once in a while I just go through a sort of a splurge on deploying them, using them. Wow, we've really kind of worked our way up against the wall here in terms of space. This is part of the reason I like to not push the envelope on approaching the capacity of these containers, because that reserve space that we had in here has been used up just by stacking up the materials over here. So I'm starting to wonder how we're going to proceed if we have no place to add stuff. All right, well, here I guess I gotta, oh my goodness, this pile of stuff is so frozen I can't really work it single-handed. I need both hands. All right, let's I mean, it doesn't have to be precise. If a few pieces don't make it into the coffee filter, then that's fine too. But it does seem to me like they take a much greater interest in the bedding type materials, in this case the coffee filter, when it's, you know, pretty much in contact with food all the way around. So my guess is that we're going to see little, if any, remnants of this particular dose of bedding today. And, you know, as far as bedding goes, when I watched the video from the last check-in 13 days ago, it seemed to me like it would have been really nice to sprinkle leaves out on the top surface. I watched it without listening to the audio. I just kind of scrubbed through the action to see and observe what was done there. But one thing that was not done was the application of a nice top coating of leaves, which I like to do once in a while. Perhaps I just ran out of leaves down here at that time and I just didn't have what would have been needed to make that happen. But today I'm restocked, so I'm looking forward to coating the top surface here with leaves, which will also serve as bedding in the long run. And that depletes the main portion that I came down here with, leaving only these figs and a few little scraps, which I guess we could include. But I'm starting to get that feeling like perhaps the figs can go back in the freezer. That's what I'm going to do, because in addition to all this delicious food here, don't forget I've also got coffee that needs doing away with. So we're not going to miss the opportunity to spread some coffee in here. You could see different types of coffee rolling out of the out of the container. And you know, it just so happens that, is that a worm? Oh, you know what that is? That's a dead worm, I think. That's unfortunate. I don't know how that happened. Or no, it makes more sense that that's a piece of fruit or vegetable matter, not a dead worm. Sorry. Where does my mind go in cases like that? So yeah, I thought that this piece of paper could go down here into the feeding zone, and let's not forget to give them a little grit too. Pulverized eggshell. Well, it's not even a little bit. We gave them quite a bit there. But that's all right. I got plenty to spare. And now, after tilling up and excavating the material that was down in the feeding zone, we still have that option to go out to the outer edges and till up what's out there and aerate it and fluff it up and bring the whole level of everything up. But you know, sometimes I just make the conscious decision to not disrupt the outer edges and leave them be for an interval. You know, next time we come back, perhaps that'll be, who knows, close to a month that we've allowed certain sections of the bin to just be uninterrupted and not disturbed. So I think that's what we're going to do today, is we're just going to skip aerating and examining the outer edges of the systems. Offhand, nothing comes to mind that, you know, would require my attention in here. And before we put the leaves on as sort of a top coating, I'm definitely noticing the wings of little flying insects. They seem to reflect the lights, and I could see them moving all over the place if I just slow down enough. It seems like up until about just a few seconds ago, I didn't notice any flying insects in here at all. But once I slowed down, now I could see at least a half a dozen just by glancing around. And if I really slow down, I could see dozens. So what I'm bringing in here now is a little bit of stuff that kind of looks like the grit that we added earlier. But this ain't crushed eggshell. This is pulverized Mosquito Dunks. In the past, I used to make a solution out of the Mosquito Dunks and always apply it to the systems in fluid form, but more recently I've been just pulverizing the Mosquito Dunks as you buy it in the store in those little circular shaped donuts, and throwing them into my blender and putting them into that little seasoning dispenser, and I think it works really well. Because it wasn't even all that long ago that I felt like I was having sort of an infestation down here with the flying insects, but I believe it has solved the problem for me. So I'm sticking to it. So let's bring back the coverings here. That pretty much brings us to the conclusion of today's check-in, and I'm looking over at the container where I was feeling a little bit overloaded with all the coffee filters I had. Well, that leaves only 2, which I feel better about setting aside and adding to my little collection. And this will go back to the collection of foods in my freezer. Other than that, we're pretty much done here. So let me take care of getting stuff cleaned up and put away here, but I'm not going to keep around for that. That's boring. Before I go really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.